7 bizarre true trespassing horror stories that haunt you tonight. The wind howled through the abandoned town, each gust a whispered warning. Picture this, a decrepit house standing alone, window panes shattered like the dreams of those who once lived there. Incredibly, the last known resident had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a diary filled with unsettling entries about someone watching through the cracks of the walls. Right there, in the quiet of the night, curious thrill-seekers dared each other to step foot inside, eyes wide with fright and excitement. There was something electrifying and terrifying about that old place. As they crept closer, the moon illuminated a faded sign that read, "No trespassing." The word sent shivers down their spines. They snuck through the creaking door, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the dead quiet. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a low growl rumbled from the darkness. A shadow crossed the hall, too big to belong to a mere animal. They gasped, choking on their fear, hearts pounding in their chests like a wild drum. Was it a ghost, an animal, or something worse? What was lurking behind those walls? A flicker of light caught their eye, flickering just ahead. Intrigued, they pressed further into the gloom. And there, in the corner of a dust-coated room, an old rocking chair moved slowly back and forth, as if someone or something never left. A broken rocking chair couldn't possibly be a good sign. The air thickened, turning the hairs on the back of their necks to steel. They exchanged nervous glances, wondering if they should turn back or press on into the spine-chilling unknown. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With bated breath, they tiptoed toward the chair, adrenaline rushing through them. That's when a heavy footfall reverberated down the hallway, and the whisper of someone or something breathing grew louder. No longer were they the only ones in the house. A cold sweat coated their backs, and panic surged as a sudden realization dawned on them. They weren't just trespassers, they were being hunted. What was out there in the shadows? Was it the spirit of the last resident, or something more sinister? Would they escape, or was the house claiming new occupants? With a jolt, they turned abruptly, and the decision of a lifetime loomed over them like a storm. They had to choose, face the darkness or flee into the unforgiving night. In that moment, fear gripped them like a vice. The decision was simple, yet monumental. They turned to flee, hearts racing. Each footfall echoed in the hollow space, adding to the cacophony of panic that swirled in their minds. The hallway stretched out ahead, dark and foreboding, illuminated only by the pale moonlight seeping through broken windows. They could feel the weight of the house pressing down on them, as if it were alive, breathing amid its decay. As they sprinted down the hall, the low growl morphed into a guttural snarl, reverberating through the silent night like an omen. It was close. Everything in them screamed to go faster. Shadows danced at the edge of their vision, flickering with each frantic glance back. They didn't know what was behind them, but whatever it was hungered for them, like a hunter relishing the chase. Suddenly, a door swung open with a loud creak, revealing a darkened room filled with old crates and dust-covered memories. One of the thrill-seekers, Jamie, stumbled, almost falling into it. "In here!" she gasped, pulling her friends inside just as they heard the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps thundering closer. They huddled together, backs pressed against the cold, damp wall, and held their breaths. The footsteps stopped at the threshold. Silence fell. A thick tension filled the air, the kind that seemed to throb like a heartbeat around them. Something was out there, watching, waiting. They shared fearful looks, their minds racing with thoughts of what could be lurking just beyond that door. "What do we do?" whispered Max, his voice barely above a whisper. The group exchanged glances, fear etched in their expressions. No one had an answer. With hearts still pounding, they strained to listen. It felt like hours passed in the stillness until the sound of slow, deliberate breathing filled the void. It was too close. Jamie dared to peek through a crack in the door. The moonlight spilled in, revealing only darkness beyond and something larger than life lurking just outside the thin barrier separating them from whatever horror was inside the house. A chill swept through her body as she caught a glimpse of an outline, its silhouette twisting unnaturally in the pale light. "We have to get out of here, now," she hissed, adrenaline flooding her veins again. They glanced around, looking for an escape route, but all they saw were old crates and cobwebs. The breathing grew loud again, punctuated by a series of low growls that sounded almost human. For a moment, they thought they heard whispers mingling with the ominous sounds, muttering words they couldn't comprehend. Every instinct screamed for them to flee again. Jamie shoved the door open wide and they bolted into the hall. The darkness was suffocating, pressing in on them with every step. But just as they reached the staircase, a horrific sound shattered their desperate rush, a scream that echoed through the empty corridors, carrying with it a promise of despair. It was primal and raw, sending a new wave of terror crashing over them. They couldn't stop. They reached the stairs, but as one of them made it to the first step, the wood beneath them splintered, sending her crashing to the ground. The others halted, panic setting in. The howls intensified, the creature just around the corner. They were trapped, no longer simply trespassers, they had stirred something in the darkness. In that moment of hesitation, they faced the ultimate horror. Would they leave one behind? Risk it all to escape, or face whatever hunted them together? The choice hung in the air like a noose, thick and suffocating. What would they decide? Would they find a way out, or would the house consume them all? As they stood frozen, the darkness shifted, and a long, slender shadow spilled into the light. The shadow slid across the floor like a dark ribbon, stretching and contorting as it moved closer. Jamie's heart raced, every instinct told her to run. But they were all together, and they couldn't leave anyone behind. "Get up, Lily!" Jamie shouted, her voice cracking. Fear surged through her as she crouched down to help her friend. Lily was on her hands and knees, visibly shaking. The sound of the growls morphed into a chorus of low, menacing whispers. It sounded like a language, an echo of something ancient. Suddenly, the shadow lunged forward, a mass of dark fury. It was larger than any animal, its form fluid and twisted as it collided with the wall, sending dust and debris flying. "Run!" Max yelled, grabbing Lily's arm and yanking her to her feet. They stumbled backward, caught in a whirlwind of panic, unsure whether to make for the stairs or head back to the safety of the crates. But the decision was made as the creature's growl turned into a thunderous roar that rattled the air. With no time to think, they shot down the hallway and rounded the corner, breathless. The house felt like it was shifting beneath their feet, closing off their escape. Each breath was a struggle against the stench of rot that pressed in on them from all sides. "We need to find a window," Jamie shouted, desperation lacing her words. They dashed into what appeared to be a dilapidated living room, the moonlight revealing forgotten furniture shrouded in sheets. A heavy, faded chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, casting dancing shadows over the walls. "There." Jamie pointed to the far wall where an old, cracked window glimmered faintly. The group rushed to it, the growls echoing behind them, blood-curdling and relentless. Max kicked at the sill, and a rain of splintered wood cascaded down. "Help me!" he grunted, shoving the window up with all his might. But it was stuck, and the sound of the creature grew nearer, vibrating through the floor. The whispers crescendoed, somehow mingling with the terror in their hearts, creating a din of dread. Come on," Jamie urged, glancing back as the silhouette began to seep through the doorframe, stretching impossibly wide, forming shapes that shouldn't exist. With one final heave, the window creaked open. "You first!" Max shouted at Jamie, urgency thick in the air. "No!" You go. I'll push Lily through. She pressed against the window, fumbling for Lily's hand. Come on, get up. But at that moment, a scream escaped Lily's lips, piercing the mayhem that surrounded them. Overwhelmed by fear and the primal instincts triggered in all of them, she froze, too terrified to move. In that instant, Jamie felt the cold chill of the entity's breath against her skin. It whispered her name, low and guttural, filled with promises of despair. The palpable darkness wrapped around her like a fog. Lily, you have to move. She shouted, giving her friend a frantic shove. Lily blinked, as if waking from a nightmare, and sprang into action, squeezing through the opening. But just as Max started to follow, the malignant force lunged forward, claws glistening in the feeble moonlight. Oh God! He cried, jerking back. The moment of hesitation cost them precious seconds. As they stumbled back, the creature surged, its mass incomprehensibly vast. Panic flooded the room as Jamie's mind raced. What do they do now? The answer was simple. They had to face it. They also had to get out. Together. She screamed. We charge towards it, and then we run. The others nodded, eyes wide with fear. They stepped closer to the darkness, hearts pounding. With one breath, they surged forward, intent on breaking through, knowing the alternative was worse, being trapped forever. But as they charged, the shadows writhed and coalesced, revealing eyes, dozens of them glistening like stars in the night. Another breath shattered the air, a sound like thunder, and they found themselves face to face with horror incarnate. They were nearly upon it when time itself seemed to freeze. Then, as fear surged, the monstrous form still flickering in the darkness, Jamie's mind screamed. The question, were they diving into their own doom or finding a way to survive? A deafening roar drowned out their thoughts, and then everything went dark. What awaited them in that abyss of shadows? The darkness swallowed them whole. Jamie felt a pressure on her chest, like an invisible weight, dragging her down into the abyss. She gasped for air, panic clawing at her throat. Her thoughts scattered, a dizzying whirlwind of fear. Max! Lily! She called into the void, her voice echoing back in dissonant whispers. The monstrous roar faded, replaced by a heavy silence, thick and suffocating. Everything was obscured, and the sensation of being utterly alone gripped her. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared like a beacon. Jamie stumbled toward it, her heart racing with both hope and dread. Guys! Over here! She strained her eyes against the oppressive darkness, attempting to make out the shapes moving in the shadows. Jamie? Came a voice, trembling but recognizable. It was Lily. Relief washed over her as she turned to see her friend emerge from the same inky backdrop. Grab my hand! Jamie shouted, reaching for her. Lily lunged forward, their fingers just brushing, but the shadows twisted and pulled her back, a black whirlpool of despair. No! Hold on! Jamie screamed, lunging out, feeling the treacherous pull of the darkness trying to ensnare her as well. As Lily fought against the shadowy grasp with every ounce of will, Jamie focused on her friend. If they could just reach each other. And then Jamie noticed Max, alone and quiet, against the far wall of unimaginable darkness. Max! What happened? Her voice cracked, filled with fear. He turned, eyes wide and dark, but his expression sent a chill down her spine. It's too late, he whispered, shaking his head slowly. Something stirred in his gaze, something deep and haunted. The shadows, they know us. They want us. What are you talking about? Jamie prompted, her stomach churning. It's worse than we thought, he murmured, his voice barely audible above the growing hum of the dark. They feed off our fear, our memories. They're drawing us in. What do we do? Jamie felt the tremor ripple through her body, a mix of terror and determination. Max glanced down uncertainly. We fight, but the only way to stop them is to confront the truth of what we're hiding from. We don't have time for this. Lily shouted suddenly, panic woven into her voice. We have to get out. We can't stay here. Jamie felt an urgency rise in her chest. Max, what is it? What do we need to face? He hesitated, glancing back into the void. The secrets we didn't even know we had, the regrets, the sorrows, it's all made manifest here. Before they could respond, the shadows recoiled momentarily, almost like a breath holding in anticipation. Then, they surged again, coursing toward them with an insatiable hunger. Jamie could feel the air growing colder, instinct screaming at her to move. Think of something that burdens you. Jamie shouted, urgency lacing her words. It might weaken the shadows. She closed her eyes, willing her mind to focus on the pain of loss. Memories surged, unbidden, her grandmother's last breaths, the words left unsaid. The shadows flickered, briefly flicking away, but no dissipated completely. I can't, she heard Max murmur, shaking his head. It's too hard. Draw strength from each other. We have to do this together. Jamie insisted, heart racing, as the shadows shuddered at their hesitation. What if it doesn't work? Lily asked, fear tightening her voice. What if we lose ourselves? The shadows seemed to revel in their uncertainty, swelling with dark energy. Jamie felt a spark of resolve ignite within her. We won't lose each other. She shouted. We can't let them take us. With that, she took a deep breath, reaching out to both friends, creating a circle. The shadows pulsed around them, a living darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Desperate, Jamie began to share her pain, her memories, the warmth exiting her body feeding the darkness. One by one, Max and Lily followed, each confession an arrow shot into the heart of the shadowy mass. As words of pain flew into the void, the shadows recoiled, straining against the growing light emitted by their truth. But would it be enough? Then came a piercing shriek that ripped through the shadows, a cacophony of anguish awakening as if the very abyss was reacting. Jamie felt her heart race as the darkness churned violently around them. Keep going. Don't stop. She urged, the intensity mounting. But just as the shadows began to retreat, a figure emerged within, a woman shrouded in a black veil, her eyes glowing with an unworldly light, and her presence cast an even deeper shadow. Who are you? Jamie demanded, fear sparking anew as the figure's faint smile chilled her spine. I am what you refuse to acknowledge. I am your fear. The room shifted, and Jamie felt the weight of her secrets, her guilt crashing down upon her, while the whispers began to rise, carrying strange echoes of her own regrets. They were still trapped, but why had she failed to confront her truth before? As the shadows closed in, a stark realization pierced through the haze of terror. What lies ahead could be worse than they feared, and then came the dreadful question. Would facing their own darkness be the key to escape, or would it finally lead them to an eternal darkness from which they could never escape? The woman with the black veil stepped closer, her presence pulsating with an energy that felt both suffocating and magnetic. Jamie's heart hammered in her chest. Your fear, your pain, she said softly, her voice a cold breeze in the oppressive darkness. It brings me power. Shut up. Lily yelled, her fear morphing into defiance. You don't scare us. But the shadows twisted at Lily's words, an angry wave surging toward them. Jamie quickly stepped forward, holding her ground. No, wait. We need to focus. She turned back to Max and Lily, desperation etched across her face. We can't let it take over. We have to keep sharing. As Jamie's words hung in the silence, the woman's smile widened, her eyes glowing eerily in the dim light. You think your confessions can save you? They only feed me. Don't listen to her. Max gasped. He clenched his fists, determination flooding his features. We can't give in. We have to use it against her. Panic and anger fought within Jamie. Memories rushed through her mind, the night of the accident, the guilt that gnawed at her every waking moment. It filled her with dread, and the darkness seemed to swell in response. I lost her, she whispered. The shadows writhed, feeding off her sorrow. We all have regrets, Max murmured, his voice steady. He met Jamie's gaze. Let us face it together. We show them that our regrets don't define us. Right. Lily shouted back. We're stronger together. With a deep breath, Jamie gathered herself. They needed to break free, but it required more than just revealing their hurts. They had to convert their fears into strength. We lost people we loved, but we're still here. She declared, her voice growing stronger. As they forged ahead, Jamie focused on the love that never faded, the sweetness of her grandmother's laughter, the warmth of her embrace. I miss her, but she taught me to be brave. With each word, wisps of light began to glow around them, illuminating their circle, pushing back against the dark. The echoes of their shared truths formed an unbreakable bond, a shield against the crawling shadows. My dad didn't deserve what happened. Max shouted. But I won't let his memory be tainted by despair. I never told those I cared about how much they meant to me, Lily added, her voice rising as light sparked from their joined hands. But I'm going to change that. Suddenly, with each confession, the woman's smile faltered. The glow surrounding the trio grew brighter, breaking through the veil of darkness. No. The woman hissed, her voice shattering as the shadows shrank away, screeching in protest. You cannot do this. I will not be denied. Banishing her rising panic, Jamie pulled her friends closer. Remember the strength we have in one another. We can face this together. Their light intensified, surging forth as memories of loss transformed into a deep-seated love and bravery. The woman's dark veil began to ripple, unraveling into strands of the very shadows she commanded. In a final desperate attempt, the figure lunged toward them, reaching for the pulsing light. But grasping hands met solid resistance. The shadows howled, twisting around her as she shrieked, "You will regret this reunion." With a blinding burst, light erupted, sending a shockwave through the void. Jamie felt the rush of fresh air brush against her skin as the darkness cracked, fissures breaking open like glass, but before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the shadows erupted again, this time coalescing into monstrous forms at the edges of vision, their grotesque whispers growing louder. The echoes of the woman lingered, simmering in the air. What have we unleashed?" Jamie stammered, dread creeping in as she felt the weight of chilling eyes gazing from the now plagued corners of the darkness. "Maybe it isn't over." Max's voice trembled with uncertainty. Lily grasped Jamie's arm tight. "One more truth. We can't give up." As the shapes advanced, looming closer, Jamie's heart raced. The question echoed in her mind. What deeper truth lay hidden beneath layers of fear and pain? Would revealing it finally end the darkness, or would it awaken something worse than they could ever fathom? The grotesque shapes writhed in the shadows, their features morphing from indistinct blobs into twisted visages of torment and despair. Jamie's breath quickened, a cold knot tightening in her stomach. She exchanged frantic looks with Lily and Max, their expressions a mix of fear and fierce determination. "They're coming for us." Lily gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "No," Jamie said, squeezing Lily's hand, trying to impart courage. "We're done running. This time, we confront them." But the advancing shadows were relentless, looming closer, their whispers clawing at her ears. "Your pain will feed us," they hissed, an echo of the woman's chilling tones. Frowning, Jamie searched her mind for the strength within, summoning images of hope amidst the chaos. "We have to finish what we started," she shouted, her voice echoing against the void, thrumming like a drumbeat. "More truths we can't stop now." Her friends nodded, their expressions transformed, fueled by the fire igniting in their hearts. It was time to reveal their deepest fears, to reclaim their power. One by one, they faced the shadows and began to speak. "I was never good enough," Lily began, her voice shaking but resolute. "I let my fears control my life. I wanted to be someone else. But now she straightened, confidence rising. I will take ownership of who I am. The shadows recoiled, their grotesque forms shimmering, as if the light from Lily's words sliced through their dark essence. Max stepped forward, the glow around them flickering with every syllable. I hid away after my dad died. I felt like I was in shackles of sadness, but I refused to let him down anymore. His memory deserves my strength. The air around them vibrated with his words, pulsing energy dispersing the creeping shadows. They howled in rage, the whispers growing sharper, but Jamie felt the push of something tangible building their truths, their essence, driving the dark back. What about you, Jamie? Max urged gently, eyes locking with hers. Taking a deep breath, Jamie felt the weight of her own truths crash down around her. She closed her eyes, visualizing her grandmother's smile, the love that had once cocooned her in warmth. I've been haunted by guilt. I was the last one with her, and I never told her how much I loved her. Her voice broke, fear flooding her chest like ice water. But she steeled herself, forcing the words through clenched teeth. I thought I had time to say those things, and now she's gone. But I will honor her memory, I can't let her spirit be trapped in my regret. The shadows writhed violently, their forms flickering, as if wincing from the force of her declaration. The light around Jamie pulsed stronger than before, burning back the darkness with newfound intensity. Together, we break through. Max shouted, rallying their spirits. As they locked hands, a brilliant, blinding light erupted from their joined strengths. The shadows hissed, twisting in agony as they dwindled, scattering into whispers of smoke, but suddenly, Jamie felt a sharp coldness creep up her spine. A deeper voice, darker than any of the shadows they had faced, called out from the void. You think you have won? You've merely stirred forces far worse than me. The ground trembled, and cracks began to spread like spiderwebs, splitting the shadows even further apart. Something ancient and malevolent brewed behind the recesses of the darkness, and dread washed over Jamie and her friends. What do we do? Lily cried, panic threading her voice. Face it, whatever it is. Jamie replied, her heart slamming against her ribcage. She couldn't back down now. The shadows retreated, and a monstrous silhouette emerged from the deepest depths of despair, a being of unfathomable horror and rage. Its voice boomed, reverberating off the very fabric of their reality. You were never meant to know the truth, but now you have awakened me. As they gasped in horror, Jamie steeled herself, an unshakable thought echoing in her mind. There was no turning back now. They had stepped through the portal of fear, now they simply had to survive it. What was this new terror, and how could they possibly confront it? The monstrous silhouette loomed larger, its form shifting with dark energy, the air thickening around them. Jamie's heart raced as fear slithered its fingers around her throat. The being's eyes, like twin black holes, pulled her focus, igniting primal terror within her. What do we do? Lily repeated, her voice trembling. Jamie could barely form a response, her mind racing for answers. Stay together. Jamie blurted out, strength surging in her voice even as doubt clung to her like a fog. They pressed closer, hands gripping tightly, the warmth of their connection against the icy sensation that enveloped them. Your fears are your undoing, the creature intoned, each word dripping with malice. Your truths merely scratch the surface. You think you can match me with mere confessions? Jamie clenched her teeth, fighting against the encroaching dread. We have more truths to share. We can't let you win. The dark being unleashed a roar that resonated with ancient power, shaking them to their cores. Foolish children. You meddle with things you cannot comprehend. Turning to her friends, Jamie saw their resolve falter, but beneath the fear lurked an ember of courage. We have to dig deeper, she urged, her voice steadying. Find the pain we've buried, what we've hidden for too long. Max shook his head, eyes wide. What if we can't? Then we fight. Jamie shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. We can't back down now. She knew the stakes, they might lose everything, but they had to try. Lily took a shaky breath, tears glistening in her eyes. I haven't told you about the secret I've kept. My brother, the accident, it was my fault. The admission shattered the air, the shadows swirling violently in response, feeding off her sorrow. As the whirlwind of darkness circled them, Jamie felt a surge of empathy for her friend. You weren't to blame, Lily. You can't carry that forever. Let it go. With each word Lily spoke, the creature flinched, its form flickering at the edges. No. You cannot let it go. Max echoed, his brow furrowing as if he desperately squeezed the weight of grief from his chest. I was angry at my dad for leaving me, for not fighting harder. But he loved me. He would never want this. The figure writhed, rippling in agony. Jamie could sense the power of their confessions mounting, the intensity of their truths filling the air. She steadied her voice amidst the chaos. Listen to us. The creature sucked in air, readying another howl of rage. You think your truths scare me? Your forces are mere specks. No. Jamie declared, an idea sparking brighter than fear. These truths are more than just words. They bind us together, strengthening our resolve. It's time we all speak together. What? Questioned Lily, glancing between them. We can harness our collective strength. Jamie inhaled sharply. All of us. Simultaneously. Okay, Max whispered, taking a deep breath. They each steeled themselves for a powerful release. Together now. Jamie shouted. As their voices erupted in unison, each tightening the knot of their strengths, the air around them exploded with a vibrant light, illuminating the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. No. Stop. The being screamed, its form trembling as they poured their fears, secrets, and truths into the light. But even as it screamed, shadows flared to life, disembodied pains ripping through Jamie's mind, memories she had long hidden, brushing close to the surface. The shadows fed on her past regrets, twisting them into grotesque faces. You think you can overcome me? The darkness writhed, collaborating with her buried fears. Join me instead. Relinquish your fight. No. Jamie shouted, struggling to retain her focus. The thunder of her heartbeat filled her ears, drowning out everything else. This ends now. Just as the light threatened to consume the darkness, Jamie felt a sudden emptiness, a cold void where her strength had been. I can't. She gasped, collapsing inward as doubt surged. The light flickered, and for a moment, horror crept back into the edges of her mind, but then, as if drawn by an unseen force. Jamie's friends wrapped their hands tighter, their strength feeding into her as they shouted their truths again, igniting a spark. Could they turn the tide and face this ultimate malevolence? In the eye of the storm, they would find out. A new terror awaited just beyond their reach. Jamie felt the warmth of her friends' hands, their grip steadying her as hope flickered to life again. Each shout resonated within her like a lifeline tossed into a turbulent sea. She focused on their voices, each truth powerful enough to carve away the darkness threatening to engulf them. But the creature's wail pierced through the light and shrank the vibrant energy they had harnessed. You think your little confessions can defeat me? It croaked. I am fear imbued with all your anguish. Nothing you say can extinguish me. No. Jamie cried, her voice ringing with fury. You thrive on our doubts, but we're not afraid anymore. We're stronger together. The dark figure convulsed violently, a chaotic dance of shadows. Its form twisted into grotesque shapes, taunting them with fears they had not yet spoken. Faces from Jamie's past surfaced, friends lost, moments of utter failure. It was all there, layered like a nightmarish collage. But weaving in and out of that darkness was another force, a memory filled with love and laughter. Jamie clutched her friend's hands tighter, feeling their collective spirit. Focus on the joy. The moments that hold us strong. Lily, her voice full of desperation, shouted, "The day we won the track meet. We worked so hard together. I can feel it." Max jumped in next, his eyes brightening. "When we huddled up at the start of every game. We faced those opponents like they were nothing. Together." Jamie commanded, her heart racing as she felt the light swell again. They had to seal this moment. Let it all burst free. The good. The real. As they unleashed their emotions into the bright vortex around them, the dark being howled, shrinking against the tide of light. "No. You'll regret this." It screeched, its voice a cacophony of despair. With renewed energy surging between them, Jamie called out their shared memories, each painful truth, each joyful recollection. "We are not alone. We are not weak. We are family." The blinding light pulsed like a heartbeat, pushing against the creature, pressing it back. Jamie could feel waves of brightness washing over her, grounding her in their shared purpose. Yet, the dark figure roared, its form twisting and contorting, fighting the surge. Then, in an explosive moment, it erupted with ferocious force, a final desperate strike. Jamie gasped as the shadows around them surged forward, clawing at her heart, threatening to tear them apart. "You cannot escape me." Terror clawed at her throat. Memories of her own insecurities clawed back with startling vigor. "What if," she started, but the thought was yanked back as the power of her friend's truths swelled again. The feeling of fear and pain coiling tightly, threatening to paralyze her. But no, she needed to fight. With a surge of determination, Jamie yelled, "Remember that day we all stood together at the cliff? The freedom we felt?" The memory surged forth, an image of laughter and sunlight that in an instant, the shadows absorbed her memory, and she felt them shift, transformed into something purer, boosted by their shared camaraderie. The creature writhed again, but the brightness was overcoming its darkness. "You cannot do this." The energy ricocheted through them, escalating, and Jamie felt an overwhelming urge to leap. "Let us finish this." As one unified force, they bolted forward, their voices intertwining in a magnificent chorus of strength and unity. The light blazed like a supernova, and with one final push, Jamie felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. Would it work? Could they drive the darkness away once and for all? The creature howled, a pained, wretched sound that echoed far and wide, but as they surged with the full force of their collective truths, Jamie realized the final battle was just beginning. Would they finally put an end to this horror, or would they have to face something even worse lurking in the shadows? With a heart racing in suspense, Jamie's world flared white and then everything went dark. Silence swallowed the air, heavy and unsettling. Jamie floated in a void, a disorienting stillness that surrounded her like a thick fog. She could feel the weight of her heartbeat in her chest, thumping against her ribcage like a caged bird desperate for escape. Where are we?" Her voice trembled in the darkness, barely a whisper. There was no response, only the soft rustle of something shifting in the distance. Her eyes strained, searching for a flicker of light, some hint of her friends. Then, as if provoked by her thoughts, flickers of warmth began to pulse around her like dancing fireflies. Slowly, the shadows began to dissolve, and the familiar shapes of Lily and Max materialized. They stood mere feet away, dazed but unbroken, their faces illuminated by an eerie, ghostly glow. "Jamie." Lily's eyes sparkled with relief. "You're okay. Are we still in the fight?" Max's voice was strained, confusion lacing his tone. "It felt like we lost." No sooner had he spoken when a shattering roar reverberated through the air, sending shards of fear ricocheting in their chests. The darkness thickened around them, swirling like living ink. "There's something wrong," Jamie gasped, her senses heightening. "It's too quiet." Without warning, the dark figure re-emerged, looming ominously before them, its face a twisted mask of rage and sorrow. "You think you've won?" It hissed, its voice a sickening blend of laughter and despair. "You've only just begun to unveil the abyss within yourselves." The shadows coiled tighter, tendrils of darkness lunging at Jamie and her friends. I will show you your darkest fears, your regrets, the pieces of you that you hide. No! Jamie shouted, desperation overcoming her. We're not going to let you win. But the creature laughed, a sickly sound that sent chills racing down her spine. Joy? Love? You think they can shield you? Stand beside each other as you might, but inside, you are alone. And at that moment, like a cruel magician, it began to unveil their hidden fears. Gargantuan images surged forth from the darkness, memories they had buried deep rising anew. Jamie gasped as shadows morphed into the faces of friends she'd let down, moments that echoed with loss and regret surged back, each one biting, each one a reminder of her own failures. Max fell to his knees, his hands gripping his head, overwhelmed. No, I can't. I can't face this. Not again. Lily's face drained of color as memories flashed in her eyes. Her first race, the one she lost so badly, the moment she thought she'd let everyone down. Fight it. Jamie urged, her own voice wavering as the darkness clawed at the edges of her resolve. We can't let it win. But the creature twisted in laughter. See how simple it is. Clutching your dreams won't save you when reality sinks in. The shadows danced around them, weaving ominous patterns, whispering doubts and regrets. Stay with me, lose yourself. Suddenly, a brilliant spark ignited within Jamie. No. We're not lost. Remember the cliff? Remember what we said? Forcing her hand to connect with Max and Lily, she felt a surge of warmth pulsating from their touch, pushing against the encroaching darkness. We can turn this around. With newfound strength, Jamie summoned their laughter, their resilience, refusing to let fear dictate their journey. Together. Let us break this. The shadows swirled and screeched as if realizing the power of unity, the true weapon against despair. The light they conjured sliced through the darkness, illuminating their path, urging them forward, but the dark being fought back, its form expanding, twisting grotesquely in its final attempt to pull them down. You will fail. With every ounce of energy, Jamie felt the tide beginning to shift, but it came with a cost. Where there is light, shadows linger. Would they truly cast it away? As darkness fought fiercely against their feeble light, unyielding whispers echoed, and Jamie realized with dread, the battle might only be beginning, pushing them towards a decision that could change everything. Would they bend under the weight of their past, or find the strength to rise above it? Something darker than fear awaited, and Jamie had a choice to make. Would love guide her, or would the shadows finally claim them all? The shadows twisted and writhed, clawing at Jamie and her friends as they fought against the tide of their own fears. The creature towered over them, a dark mass that seemed to pulse with the weight of all their regrets. Jamie's heart raced. This was the moment they had dreaded, yet deep down, they knew this was their chance to break free. Stay close. Jamie urged, her words sharp like a whip, cutting through the murkiness that surrounded them. Max and Lily linked hands with her tightly, grounding her as they faced the nightmarish specter looming ahead. It was an agonizing sight. Faces from their past flickered in and out of the darkness, each a painful reminder of their failures and fears. Remember the cliff. Jamie shouted, her voice steady, unwavering against the oppressive weight of despair. We're not just here to face fear, we're here to reclaim what it means to be together. The shadows shuddered, as if the entity recoiled from the power of unity they displayed. You think your bonds can protect you? It hissed, twisting like smoke. You're nothing but fragments clinging to each other in a sea of darkness. No! Max yelled, defiance igniting behind his eyes. We have the strength to break free. Together, we face what's lurking inside. And then they began to speak as one, memories flooding back, not just the pain, but the love, laughter, and light that had once defined them. Remember the hike we took last summer? Jamie called out, the words falling like drops of rain on parched ground. The joy we felt reaching the top. The sun on our faces. I remember feeling invincible that day. Lily added, her voice gaining strength. We conquered those trails, and we can conquer this too. The atmosphere crackled with energy, igniting a wave of warmth that pushed against the shadows. And the day we finished that big project together. Max piped in, his face illuminated in bright memories. They recalled the late nights and the victory dance when everything clicked just right. The darkness shimmered, the ghastly forms beginning to flinch as light radiated from their bonding memories. "You're nothing without me," the Dark One shrieked, clenching tighter like a noose around their souls. "We have no space for you," Jamie exclaimed. "Your hold on us is breaking." Summoning all her courage, Jamie gripped her friend's hands tighter. "Let us push through. On the count of 3, we dive into the light together." "Together," echoed Lily and Max, their voices ringing like bells of hope. 1, 2, 3. They leaped into the brilliant glow that started to break through the shadows, their hearts synchronized in purpose. The light exploded outward, a radiant force that swallowed the darkness momentarily. For an instant, Jamie felt herself weightless, floating above the fray. Memories of joy wrapped around her like a warm blanket. But suddenly, the creature lashed out with all its rage, desperate to reclaim its hold. "No! You're bound to me!" It roared, but the light pulsed, growing brighter with each shared secret, each confession laid bare. "You cannot escape." In that moment, Jamie felt the tendrils of darkness attempting to ensnare her. She closed her eyes, focused on the warmth of her connections. "We are not afraid," she shouted, channeling every ounce of strength she had. The whispers grew frenzied, the shadows contorting into desperation. Yet the light surged brighter, feeding off their unity, illuminating the path they had forged together. With one final crashing wave of energy, the dark figure shattered, fragments of despair crumbling like ash. They were free. Breathless, Jamie found herself standing back in the cracked living room, the moon casting gentle shadows on the dust-covered floor. The air felt different, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off their shoulders. "Did we do it?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and hope. "Are we really out?" Max murmured, still gripping Jamie's hand tightly. Jamie smiled, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes. "Yeah, we did it. We faced our fears, together." The darkness that once engulfed the house began to dissolve, revealing the beauty hidden beneath years of neglect. Rays of moonlight streamed through broken windows, painting the room with remnants of warmth. They stepped out into the cool night air, breaths harmonizing in relief. As they gazed back at the house, it felt like they were closing a chapter, leaving behind the hauntings of their fears, stepping into a future filled with hope. "Let us promise to never let fear control us again," Jamie said, her friends nodding in unison, a pact forged through trial. They took a final look at the decrepit house, understanding now that they had not just escaped a physical entity but had confronted the darkness within themselves. The shadows were retreating, but the light glimmered ahead, guiding them forward. Together, they walked into the embrace of night, leaving behind the horrors they had faced, and stepping boldly toward a new beginning. So, what can you take away from this story? Fear may creep around every corner, lurking behind the walls, but together, you can conquer anything. If you've enjoyed this tale and want to hear more incredible stories like this one, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending because I can't wait to read what you think. And for the love of stories, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your support makes all the difference.